Hi everyone, it's Diana Owen, and I'm really sorry that I'm not able to be with you in Los Angeles today. I'm actually flying to Japan, and I'm probably flying somewhere overhead as we speak. I'm going there because just published this book with a group of Japanese colleagues, and we're having a symposium and kind of planning future research, but I'm really sorry that I'm not able to be with you. First, I'd like to start out by thanking you all for your tremendous hard work on behalf of the JMLP. Without you, we would not be able to collect the kind of data that we've been getting. And I have to say that the quality of the data collection has just improved massively with each cohort. And I believe with cohort 3, we're going to have some really tremendous data. It's the best, cleanest data collection we've had to date. So with every cohort, there's just been this tremendous improvement. And the data were good to begin with, and now it's even better. I think what's something that's really unique about the JMLP is that not only have we been able to collect empirical data in terms of hard data through testing and surveys, but we've also been getting reports from you and the teachers from the field that help us fill in kind of the backstory of what's going on with the data. For example, we've had some issues where we have one roster of students that's taken the pre-test and a roster that looks very different at the post-test, and we wondered about that, and we're able to trace it back to the teacher who told us about teaching a lot of homeless students and how they move throughout the school even during a semester. So some of them are filtering in and out of the classes. This is something that we are able to talk to the Department of Ed about and kind of really inform people about a trend that they might not be aware of. So that kind of story and qualitative information has been really great, and I really appreciate the fact that so many of you have been able to facilitate the collection of that kind of data for us as well. What I want to do this time is talk a little bit about the data collection and the findings that we have so far. I'm going to talk about 4 major studies. First is the teacher data, particularly teacher knowledge, and the student knowledge data. And then I'd also like to talk about 2 studies that you requested and which we conducted. Which first one is an evaluation of the teachers and their attitudes toward the professional development. And the second one is a study of the mentor teachers. And as you know, we've done pre-test, post-test studies of teachers and their knowledge, their pedagogies, their self-efficacy, and we've done similar studies of students' knowledge, their civic dispositions, and their civic skills. And those were the requirements of the grant. But in addition to that, in regard to feedback that we received from you, we've actually conducted a couple of other studies. We've done a study of teachers and how they evaluate the professional development program. I know that almost all of you do your own evaluations and often forward them to us, which is very helpful. But this is kind of a more standardized type of evaluation, and the feedback that we've gotten from that, from the teachers, has been really outstanding. And we've also had a request from you to do some studies of the mentor teachers to find out who are they, what's their experience level, what's their background, what professional experience do they have. And we conducted that study, and we have some really interesting and impressive findings from that study that we'll present here today. So I want to start out by looking at briefly at the teacher evaluation that we did from the JMLP. And if you have this handout, I'll be referring to this when I just point out some of the highlights. First of all, the teachers are really enthusiastic. I mean, even more than that, they're just exuberant about the program. We've asked them to write down their impressions about the program, and their comments are just glowing. And on the handout, you can see that there's just a selection of the comments that talk about how important this program has been to them, how excited they are, how they want to continue with it. And I think that that's just a real testimony to all the work that you've been doing. But I have two statistics on that front page of the sheet. First of all, that 97% of the JMLP teachers agree that they are better equipped to teach their students about American government as a result of the program, almost 100%. And then also that 95% of the JMLP teachers agree that they are better able to teach their students about good citizenship. This is a really impressive record. And the fact that the teachers feel that way, I think, just says volumes about the program. If you turn to the back of the handout, we have some more specific information about the things that the JMLP teachers felt that they were getting out of the program. And as you can see, they're saying that they're better equipped to teach their students about American government, they're better equipped to teach them about citizenship, they learned instructional practices, they learned the Socratic methods, they learned specifically how to implement this program in their classroom, and they also liked the instructional materials, and they really wanted to remain in the network. So I think all of these things point to the tremendous impact of the JMLP. I'd also like to say that this is just I think a small sampling of the vast amount of data that we collected through our evaluations. We have specific information about how how their pedagogy changed as a result of the JMLP, the kinds of resources that they have and how they're using them in terms of the program. We have a lot more, and all of that is being compiled. We have a draft report, and we'll be working to develop that report further and present that to the Department of Ed, and also make it available to you. In the meantime, if there's anything that you're interested in learning more from these evaluations, you can simply contact me, and I can see if I can get that information to you. Just one additional insight from the teacher evaluations. Because we had in cohort 2 traditional professional development and the hybrid PD, and we were able to make comparisons, we asked the teachers in both of those groups how they felt about their experience. And actually, the findings were very strong in both cases. There was a lot of satisfaction with the professional development, regardless of whether it was traditional or hybrid. But that being said, the traditional group really did feel a little bit more positive about their experience than the hybrid group did. The hybrid group said that they liked hearing from real scholars, live scholars, a little bit more than the videos, but it wasn't a deal breaker in any sense of the word. I think it's important, though, we'll have a little bit of a surprise later on, to see what the outcome is on student learning, because in that case, there's a little bit of a surprise, which I'll save for a little bit later. So we conducted a mentor-teacher study. This was a study that you had asked about because you wanted to know who the teachers were, what were their qualifications, what were their backgrounds, and we got a lot of good information. We also had a tremendous amount of participation by the mentor teachers, so that was really encouraging to get a very high response rate for them. The study shows that the mentor teachers have really got a great deal of experience. On average, they have 22 years of teaching experience in social studies. They've spent 11 and a half years teaching the We the People curriculum, and they have been mentor teachers for 6 years on average. So that's a tremendous amount of professional experience related particularly to the JMLP. And if you look at this handout here, the JMLP Mentor Teacher handout, the JMLP Mentor Teacher handout, you could see on the front, we asked Chuck Quigley and Bob Lemming to give some little insights or thoughts that they had about the mentor teachers. And I'd just like to read a little bit from Chuck's quote because it was just so great. We are fortunate in having a network of outstanding, highly knowledgeable, experienced, and successful teachers who serve as mentors to their peers. They are not only have a sound grasp of the content in our field, but are also expert in the use and promotion of highly engaging and interactive methodology that brings the subjects addressed to life for the teachers with whom they work in our professional development programs. These mentors and the teachers they inspire are the heart and soul of our programs. Without them, our curricular programs would be nothing more than parchment tools with no master craftsperson to put them to use in the classroom. And Bob's little insight also is just as glowing and insightful. And on the front you'll see that there's some quotes from the mentor teachers that we pulled out, just that were representative of what the mentors were saying about their own experience as being a mentor teacher in the JMLP. And it's quite clear that they are benefiting from this themselves almost as much, or they feel as if they're benefiting from this as much as they feel they're giving. And they feel that it's also helping their own teaching. They love being in a network with other teachers, and so I think that this experience for them is very rewarding. If you look at the back of the handout, we have a little bit of information about the mentor teachers, which I think is really interesting. They're a very, very experienced group. They have, on average, 22 years of classroom teaching experience, and they average 11 and a half years of teaching experience with the We the People program. And there's a little tiny typo on the handout, but they also have 6 years of experience as We the People mentor teachers. So it's quite an experienced group. 81% of them hold an advanced degree, and 67% of them have had additional professional certifications. So they really are, kind of the cream of the crop, and I think it's really wonderful that they're working with the program. We have some other information that you might find interesting there about their level of where they teach, the level of teaching experience they have, what grade level, where their school is located, the special skills. Do they teach ESL, special ed, in a Title I school? A lot of them teach AP, government, and 90% of them have taught high-need students, which really is just fantastic in terms of their match for the student population of the JMLP. And they're also very supportive of the We the People program and the JMLP by participating in things like the National Invitational and the National Finals, or their judge in their district or state. So there's just a lot to recommend them. And again, we have a lot more data that we've collected. We have a report in the works on the mentor teachers that I think will be a really nice appendix to our main report to the Department of Ed, because it really demonstrates the high quality of mentor teachers that you've recruited for the JMLP network. So I've saved the best for last, which is the Cohort 2 knowledge analysis for the teachers and the students. And the Cohort 2 analysis, as you know, compares the effects of the traditional professional development and the hybrid professional development models. We wanted to see whether there was a difference in the level of knowledge and other skills that teachers gained and students gained as a result of the differences in the PD. And the findings are quite interesting. First, overall, we find that teachers who have undergone the JMLP professional development training one way or another, whether it's traditional or hybrid, both do much better on tests of knowledge and also in terms of improvements in their pedagogy than teachers that are in the control group. They actually, the traditional PD teachers gained 6 points over their pretest score, and the hybrid teachers' score improved by about 5 points. So there's a 1-point difference. That's not a very large difference given the fact that it's a 60-point test. So while there is a difference favoring the traditional professional development group, it's not very large in the greater statistical realm of things. What is important is that both groups, both teachers receiving the traditional and those receiving the hybrid professional development, improved much more than the teachers in the control group, who in fact really their level of knowledge actually remained quite flat. So in terms of the teacher professional development knowledge, or knowledge gained from their professional development, it's basically for the cohorts 1 and cohorts 2, we've seen a strong and statistically significant improvement in their content knowledge, which is great. Some of the best findings that we have are for the student knowledge study. And this is very important because this is where the Department of Ed seems to be focusing its attention. And what we found is that both for the middle and high school students who were in the JMLP performed much better than students that were in the control group, regardless of whether they were in the hybrid or traditional group. The findings are somewhat different for the middle school group than for the high school group. Middle school tests consisted of 22 knowledge items, and the students who took their classes from both the traditional and hybrid teacher participants in the JMLP all scored higher than students in the control group. And as a matter of fact, the amount of the difference between the PD and control group students' knowledge is actually quite impressive. Students in the traditional PD group improved their scores on the knowledge test by almost 5.5 points, and hybrid group students increased their scores by 5 points. The control group students gained less than 3 points. So there's a really significant difference there. Students in the traditional PD group answered almost 2.5 more questions correctly than students in the control group, which is really important. And students in the hybrid PD group answered almost 2 questions more correctly than students in the control group. As we can see, students of teachers who were in the traditional PD did slightly better on the knowledge test than students who had taken their PD from a teacher participating in the hybrid PD program. But the results are not really all that big, and they're not statistically meaningful. The findings for the high school group are actually a little bit different and sort of interesting. The high school test consisted of 27 knowledge items. High school students whose teachers participated in the JMLP professional development program, again, gained significantly more civic knowledge than students in the control group. However, students in the traditional PD group bettered their scores by almost 4 points, while students in the hybrid PD group bettered their scores by almost 5 points. So we see a reverse from what we found at the middle school level. We see that high school students in the hybrid group actually scored better on their knowledge test than high school students who were in the traditional group. The control group, again, gained only slightly more than 2 points. So there's even a bigger difference at the high school level than there was at the middle school level. I think this is a really interesting finding. And it's something that is worth maybe discussing at the conference as to why at the high school level the PD group, that the hybrid PD group scored higher than the traditional PD group. Scott and I have been talking about a few possible explanations. It could be that teachers actually use some of the videos in their classrooms. There might be other explanations that are out there that you might be able to brainstorm about and share. So I just flagged this because even though the teachers that had the hybrid PD were a little bit less enthusiastic about their PD experience than those in the traditional group, the high school level students were performing better on their knowledge test, and by a significant amount. So that's a lot of good news from the data that we've collected, and we are in the process right now of compiling all the data, analyzing it, and putting together a big report that's due for the Department of Ed in the fall. And we have a large amount of statistical data, lots of empirical observations, but what we've been finding is that we're getting stories from the field that really bring to life these statistics. Teachers, some of you, mentors, have been giving us information stories about teachers who've done extraordinary things with the JMLP, students who have achieved such great things as a result of the program, and we like to hear about those. We feel that this will really give a richness to the report that the data alone can't provide. So we're going to ask your help. We would really appreciate it if you could forward stories to us. If you have any photos or even short videos, that would be great if you could get them to us. I know some of you have already been doing this, but we'd really just like to broaden the net and get as much of this kind of information as possible so that we can integrate it to the report and bring the JMLP to life more than just the statistical analysis. just another just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. First, we do have a JMLP Facebook group. I will say that it has quite a few members, but there's not a lot of activity there. And so Scott and I have been brainstorming about ways of trying to maybe invigorate that a little bit more. So maybe if you could share some ideas about the type of content that you think teachers and mentors and maybe coordinators even would like to see in that group, that would be great if you could share it with us, because we're going to try and think of a way to get that more energized. I know since the teachers are still signing up, we've even gotten some more people that joined just this past week. We'd like to make that more kind of energized. And then finally, just a quick note about an opportunity that the Georgetown team and the center have collaborated on. I had the opportunity through Georgetown to submit a proposal to the Gates Foundation for a project that actually would dovetail nicely with the JMLP. It would reach the same kind of constituency. It involves a network of teachers and working on, kind of issues of improving the academic performance and ultimately things like graduation rates and ability to get into post-secondary school, all the kinds of things that the JMLP helps foster. So we didn't have much time to put this in. I actually won the internal competition to win the spot for Georgetown to be able to submit the proposal, and we got it in on time, and let's just all keep our fingers crossed on that one. And if you have any other questions about it, John and Alyssa and Maria can fill you in. And then finally, I'd like to thank Jillian Doom for making this video.
I have the ability to just cut all this out.
I know she has the ability to cut all this out, but I hope that she doesn't. She's been working a full-time job, and she's still, doing this for us, so really, really appreciate it. Also, thanks to Scott, who's been there holding down the fort, and he'll be available to answer any questions, and I'm sure socialize with you and interact with you throughout the weekend, and he'll give me an update when I get back. And then finally, thanks to all of you for the great job that you've done to make the JMLP a tremendous success. The data don't lie, and so you're being effective. So I'm sorry to miss you, but I know you're having a great conference.